Welcome to Digital Marketing Intelligence for Shopify, Ask the Experts. Our weekly podcast and video show offers Shopify's ecosystem of brand owners, store developers, app providers, investors, and marketing agencies insights from case studies and discussions with marketing and e-commerce experts. Grow faster with tips, tricks, and proven strategies, and learn what's new in e-commerce digital marketing for 2022 and beyond. Every time I hear our intro with that music, it makes me feel like a superhero, right? A superhero of digital marketing. Welcome to Digital Marketing Intelligence for Shopify, Ask the Experts. Today's show might make you feel like a superhero in a crazy fantasy world when we dive into our topic today of Web3, the next generation for e-commerce. I'm Marissa Morgan, your show host. I'm also the business development director at Engage. On behalf of myself and the entire team at Engage, I want to welcome you to today's show. And I got to be honest, I'm a little nervous for today's show because we're touching on a topic that I know zilch about, like zero, other than you can have some really cool avatars in this world of Web3. And if you saw our show flyer for today's podcast, you saw our guest in avatar format. So we're going to learn a lot today together. So sit back, put on your Web3 seatbelts. Our guest is a highly successful digital marketer. He's the founder of Cryptan Media. He's going to explain to us what Web3 is all about and how you as a Shopify store owner can profit from this exciting new world. Before I introduce our special guest, I do want to mention that all of this invaluable information is brought to you by Engage. And we are very excited here at Engage because just this month, May 2022, we launched SMS messaging for Shopify stores, the app. Now, right now, SMS messaging has about a 98% open rate because, as you know it, we are all on our cell phones all the time, all day, every day. So we're opening those SMS messages way more than we're opening our emails. So that is why you need to check out the Engage SMS messaging for Shopify stores app. I'll pop that up on the screen. If you want to check it out, it's www.engage.com. That's how you can check out the app. And you can even try a free demo by plugging in any US mobile phone number. And literally, it will walk you through a really cool SMS demo. You'll get SMSs. SMSs? Yeah. SMSs. Well, you'll get them sent right to your cell phone. You can check out how the app works. And you can also sign up for a 30-day free trial and take 500 free SMS messages for a test drive. So check that out after today's podcast, especially if you are a Shopify store owner and you're looking to incorporate SMS messaging as part of your digital marketing campaign. If you're not doing SMS messaging, you're missing out on a ton of business because SMS messaging allows you to not only build your customer base and customer lists faster, it allows you to promote products, increase sales, create subscription lists, build in automated marketing campaigns. It's all incredible and it's all very easy to use. And our app, I must tell you, is very easy to integrate into whatever you currently have going on. You've got nothing to lose, but a huge amount of business to gain. So check out www.engage for our SMS messaging for Shopify app, new in May of 2022. That's right now. All right. Without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce you to my special guest. He is joining us from the sunny city of Miami, Florida. His name is Ryan Kirkley. If you have not heard or met Ryan Kirkley, you need to hear what he's all about. Ryan has over a decade of digital advertising experience, having run over $50 million. That's a lot of money, Ryan, in digital ads across organizations that he has worked with. In the last few years, he has led 100% YOY growth with Shopify brands through data-driven decisions around conversion and funnel management. In the last 6 months, Ryan has branched out away from the standard book of digital marketing, and he's taken a dive into Web3. And he has been working with major brands from Fortune 500 to emerging e-commerce brands in that Web3 space. His company, Cryptan Media, is dedicated to Web3 and brands looking to enter the space and bring digital marketing to their teams. Wow. Fun fact about Ryan. If it wasn't impressive enough that he's made visits to 48 states across our nation, how about the fun fact that he has traveled to not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, but 52 countries across the world. Ryan, that is impressive, as is your career in digital marketing and now Web3. Welcome to our show, Digital Marketing Intelligence. Ask the Experts. Thank you for being our expert today.
Thank you for having me, Marissa. I'm excited to be on here.
It's a pleasure. And I'm really excited. And I told you before we started today's show, I'm a little nervous because we're going to talk about Web3. I don't know much about it, but I think this is good because I was reading an article that you wrote and you dropped this little nugget that this world, this Web3 world, this metaverse is bound to be upwards of an $800 million business or industry. So I'm excited for you to be here and make something that's not quite mainstream a little more top of mind for all of our Shopify store owners. I think to kick us off and get us started on today's talk, I would love to hear from you just a little bit more about what led you to your interest and your career in Web3, if we can start there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think really as the last year has gone by, it's been almost impossible to miss kind of these really get rich stories, right? This very fast overnight change that has led brands like Bored Ape Yacht Club to CryptoPunks to go from unknown names to managing hundreds of millions of dollars under them. And so I started kind of research what it was all about and really dive into the technology that was powering all of it. And that's where I started to become more interested. Obviously, hype and excitement's always great for any industry, but it's a misunderstood industry, and the technology fundamentally is so much more powerful than just creating an avatar online or having an ape that is really cool looking to be your Instagram profile, right?
Well, this is going to be a very interesting talk. And I think just to help our viewers along, if you are listening on the podcast, I'll give you a quick briefing of our show outline today for our talk. But if you're watching in video format, I'll pop up on the screen a little bit of an outline so you can follow along, especially if this is a new topic for you. So we're talking about how Shopify brands can prepare for and start to move towards Web3 marketing tactics and technology. And Ryan, you're going to start us off super basic, and I'm good with this. We're going to talk about what is Web3, plain and simple. Then we'll talk a little bit about why e-commerce brands need to be paying attention to Web3 and to learn about what Web3 is and the opportunities there. We'll talk about what Shopify is doing to support Web3 and crypto. And then we'll talk about what Shopify's stores can do today to engage with NFTs, Web3, and how one prepares for the future. All right, Ryan, start us off nice and easy, basic. What is Web3?
Yes. So Web3 has a host of definitions under it, but functionally what this is it's the improvement upon Web 2. So think, 1999, 2001, that was the evolution from Web 1 to this more interactive, centrally hosted internet. What's happening now is a decentralization of the internet through blockchains. Now, I know blockchains are a big word attached to crypto and Bitcoin and, opinions on that aside. What this really does is it's prioritizing privatization and the ability to have data stored across the globe in manners that don't necessarily require an AWS server or Google or massive government infrastructure to use the internet.
I'm still even a little confused after that. Wow. Okay. So wait, can you take me back one more time? So
Yes.
It's an improvement upon Web 2, which is Web 2 what we consider that we're like using today? Is that considered to be Web 2?
As of today, we are in Web 2. There's some
Okay.
things that get close to what we call Web 2.5, Roblox being kind of the perfect example of that. They built their own currency. They have kind of their own universe. And there's all these different brands now that have built that to go after that, age 10 to 15 market. And so I kind of liken that as the perfect explanation of where Web3 can lead you, is that it's the tokenization of everything from real estate to video games to purchasing of tickets to, these NFTs to brand loyalty programs. Really across the spectrum, it allows that. Yes.
I was going to say, so is it kind of taking the monetary aspect out of engaging with brands and e-commerce? Is that kind of what it's doing? It's taking away the dollar, for instance, and tokenizing
It
your
it
ability to interact and be a part of
it
this world, kind of?
It can. I'm not particularly one that is the biggest advocate for it to be a full replacement of, say, the US dollar, or think that brands today need to be preparing for that. That is, obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, that's their long-term goal, is to become a full-scale currency. But for the practical purpose of Web3, when I say a token, I simply mean a digital value or data like data node is functionally what it is. And so
Okay.
all that is to say is that what it allows is, it allows brands to create a unique, engaging experience with a customer that may be different than simply a transfer of dollars to product. Um, Particularly around loyalty programs, it's a really cool way to kind of reinvent the wheel of what our loyalty programs are today. Since I don't know about you, but I'm probably on 100 brands loyalty programs, and they all function the same exact way, with a 1-to-1 ratio for the amount of dollars I spend and the discount I get.
Absolutely. I'm definitely a big fan of loyalty programs. We've talked a lot about that on this series. Loyalty programs, VIP programs, subscription-based program models, how those work very well depending on what your niche is, what your product is, who your client is. But there was one thing I also read in one of your articles, and I think it will be interesting to talk about how this ties into Web3, but you're a big advocate for the idea that storytelling, it's the link still between a brand and an audience. So do you believe that that is one of the big reasons that e-commerce brands need to pay attention to this Web3 world?
Absolutely. I think the biggest reason every brand should be paying attention to this is that it's first the storytelling, but it's second the community. To really drive brand loyalty in the age of, I can go on Google Shopping and see 50 different price points for the same product, no matter what it is. You need to have this community. You need to have the storytelling behind the brand. You need to stand for something and allow
Mm.
people, when they either wear your clothes or use your product, to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's where Web3 really starts to play in. And I think as we see this, $800 billion industry, and that's by just 2024. I mean, this has the potential to be the biggest industry in the world, because it involves all sorts of industries, from real estate, et cetera. And so I think that every brand needs to be starting to have this conversation of what can we do to prepare ourselves for this transition and this new world of the web.
That's a really good point that you just made too, because that is something we've also talked about during our series this year on Shopify. It's your brand has to tell a story. It has to resonate with your client, your prospect customer. Yes, your product can be great, but you're right. When we now, as consumers, all have the ability to get as much information really as we want via the Web 2 or Web 2.5, your brand has to do something special to stand out. And the brands that survive are the brands that are telling a story. They are not only solving a pain point for their customer, but they are making their customer feel like they're a community. So that makes a whole lot of sense and really ties into the message that we've been carrying throughout this series. This is cool. So let's kind of dive in then to what you're seeing in terms of platforms like Shopify supporting this Web3 world and supporting, for instance, the change like cryptocurrency now being a way that people are using purchasing power.
Yes. So what's fascinating is Shopify was actually at the forefront of this change. They
Oh,
partnered with crypto.com to offer over 20 currencies of purchase. But even more importantly, they were one of the first major brands to get into the NFT space. I believe it was almost a year ago that they started allowing NFTs, and the Chicago Bulls were actually the first real use case of this. But it hasn't necessarily trickled down to your standard Shopify stores and users. I think largely because this topic is so intimidating to most first-time people that either you think it's a scam because of other things that you've seen, or you don't believe the hype. But the reality is the underlying technology behind why Shopify is so excited about these partners and tools is that they really see that this is the potential future, and that this allows brands to really break away from some traditional marketing and differentiate themselves in real time.
now I've heard you mention this more than once in the conversation so far. NFTs for the
Yes.
audience or viewer who's like, NFT, what is he talking about? Can you explain a little bit more about what an NFT is?
So to give the technical answer, it's a non-fungible token. However,
Okay.
what that really means is that it's a digital asset on the blockchain. And what this means is through a unique code and metadata that distinguishes this from any other item in the entire internet. why this is nice and why this is great is it really provides a level of security and uniqueness to anything you offer, whether this is your VIP platinum membership or this is you're purchasing a car and you're using it through this digital token that allows it to be purchased real time quickly. Today, some of the real big use cases for NFTs from a practical standpoint are direct purchases of real world artwork, yachts, real estate, tickets. But we're seeing it happening for everything from mortgages to even how you get your license to how you could pay taxes. It's just a smart contract that functions completely digitally and decentralized from anything else, which would allow the world to basically revolutionize how it transmits data.
Interesting. And do you feel like Web3, I have to ask, since we're talking about data and contracts, do you feel like this world is, I guess, secure? I know that probably seems like a basic question, but again, I don't know. You're teaching me, so yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's the why this kind of had a negative connotation maybe even 5 to 10 years ago when Bitcoin first came around, is the whole point was this was meant to replace the currency system. It was meant to replace the financial system in which millions of dollars of money would take weeks to be transferred across. Well, now we have JP Morgan. We have, almost every big bank under the sun using this to transmit hundreds of millions of dollars internationally. Why do they do that? Is because it's 10 times more secure than a standard wire transfer. Probably more than that. I'm sure I'll get corrected by someone. But and then additionally, though, is it allows for them to be able to do it almost instantly and then convert it into a localized currency. Now, think about that playing out across a simple Facebook data. All of a sudden, your data is hidden behind a much more complex blockchain than any standard encryption we have today on the internet. And more importantly, it's decentralized. And so what this really does is it's a significant step forward to giving back the user's data to themselves, allowing anonymity on the web, something that is really non-existent today, and making it where if you want to reveal yourself to a brand, the brand has to make sure that they have your permission and you're wanting to do so.
That's interesting because certainly something we've been talking a lot about are the changes in, the privacy and how now companies really they're really investing in getting the first party data as best that they can versus the second or third party data, because now that second or third party data is not as reliable because it's very, it's not the full picture anymore because now we can all opt in or opt out. So you're saying now in the Web3, can I call it the Web3 world? Does that make sense? Or in the
Web3 world works perfectly, yes.
The world of Web3, consumers can truly remain anonymous in their behaviors, their purchases, their actions. Is that true or no?
Yeah, yes, in theory. And I think that's the important part of this. This is kind of like how we've known for the last 3 years cookies were going to be depreciating, how we've seen what GDPR has done to privacy in the EU, for example. We saw it coming, yet most brands were very slow to adapt. And suddenly they saw their attributable revenue drop 40%. And now they're scrambling, trying to work with agencies or anyone that can provide them better data. That's going to play out again. In probably 4 to 5 years, we will start to see blockchain-based browsers and true blockchain-based internet traffic. Now, that's a long-term plan, but it's key to businesses to start planning today for where the industry is going and what the future of the space is likely to be.
Wow. Okay. What's crazy is I know that we're going to talk a little bit about what your company does, but I feel like if anybody listening is even thinking, okay, this is interesting to me, or they're thinking, how can I almost at this point take advantage of the fact that Shopify is on board, right, with this, and Shopify wants to be a part of this world, it makes sense, I think, for anyone listening to consider reaching out to Ryan and to his company. And I'll share how you can do that after we're done with our talk. But let's kind of trickle then down to, you talked about that Shopify is supporting this by accepting crypto and making it easy. And what can Shopify stores do today to engage with NFTs and Web3? Like, how does a store prepare for the future?
Yes. So in earnest today, if you are not I struggle to say Web3 expert because none of us are, but if you are not ingrained in the world of NFTs, Web3 and blockchain, it's very difficult to get your foot in the door. That's kind of what led to my entrance into this space. I was working with a fashion company, and I was wanting to offer NFTs of unique fashion pieces and things like that. But there was no agency or no point of contact to actually get involved with this. And I think Shopify, they see the potential for this, but they're relying on this much like they did with almost their entire evolution to give the tools to allow the ecosystem to build applications and use cases beyond that. So today, I mean, lots of brands could benefit from using an NFT. One, you're right. Right now, there's 18% of the world that's in on the hype. We're talking about a $41 billion industry, even post this, quote unquote crash that we saw here in May of 2022. And so with all of that said, there's plenty of money and interest in this space, and a lot of users and customers of yours are already in it. And so I think that's the first use case. The second use case, though, is starting to be able to think of how can I make my brand a community? And that's where Web3 really plays in. For example, some of these bigger brands are starting to talk about doing token projects. Now, I know that sounds kind of like a lot, but really what it is instead of giving loyalty points, you actually have a token to your brand. So think you're a major coffee chain. You have millions of users every day that are sitting here and they purchase and they get 10 points for every coffee. Right now, 100 points gets you a free cup of coffee. Well, instead, what if it was that specific coffee chain's quote unquote cryptocurrency? Now that amount of points has a real world USD value in the cryptocurrency exchange. And so you start to build a brand and an lasting impact away from necessarily that dollar to coffee ratio and more into that. That gets really cool when you start talking about memberships. Say if you had 100,000 points. So you bought at that point 10,000 cups of coffee, right? That puts you into the platinum tier where you get 3 free cups of coffee every week. Well, that could be an NFT. That NFT then could be sold on its own for US dollars, Bitcoin, etc., allowing someone to purchase loyalty to your brand without necessarily having earned it. That will revolutionize kind of how we think about brand loyalty, because I know for myself as a frequent traveler, in the beginning when I started going all over the world, I would have done anything to be on, Delta's Platinum or a Diamond member, because I, for life of me, don't want to sit in economy class all day long, right? And so it's that purchase value can become real and monetized to brands and then to individuals. That creates a better community and a better ecosystem for that brand to be operating in, where people are going to give you their own data. They're going to give you their socials. They're going to promote you organically because there's a real world value to them to doing so. Especially in the influencer economy, it's a way for brands to really revolutionize how they're interacting.
Interesting. Oh, I find this very fascinating. I liked the coffee example, but being that we have time, can you share another example maybe of how a company can implement like this idea of a token versus,
Yeah.
like a dollar value or something like that?
So like, let's go to more of a D2C brand, like a fashion brand, for example.
Okay.
So I mean, you think of great loyalty programs, like my head immediately goes to like Sephora and things like that, right? These beauties and fashion brands that have done such a great job of consistently re-engaging customers well before they need to make another purchase through unique targeted offers and things like that. Now, these brands have such staying power that this tokenization could do a lot of things. You could get tokens for sharing on social and tagging. You could get tokens for every one of your friends that comments on posts. You could get tokens, I mean, really for anything under the sun. Now, these tokens could then have real world value on your shop, typically at a Typically, we advise to do it at a discounted rate to a US dollar purchase. That way, there's an incentive for people to buy these tokens. At any time, though, they can buy the tokens in circulation. What this does is it creates a unique brand value on top of the brand you already have. Now, what's really kind of crazy about this space is brands in the Web3 space have done almost entire raises. We're talking $15-20 million simply by offering a token. So when you think that you already have 5, 10,000, even 1,000 users that may be interested in this, it gives you an opportunity to build an ecosystem beyond just reliancy on, pure consumer transactions, and really getting people to start to see value to what you're offering in the Web3 ecosystem. It's kind of the next layer of e-commerce.
That's neat. And I think that there's a lot to be said. And I know you agree with this idea, as you already said, about building a community. People love to shop with brands that they feel valued by brands that they feel get them, by brands that seem genuinely interested in them. So there's this kind of idea. I see. This is so interesting. I see that if and Sephora is a great one. If I'm going to spend my dollars with Sephora and Sephora is going to turn around and say, "Hey, Marissa, I know you love us. I know you've been shopping with us for years. I'm going to give you tokens that will be worth such and such, or you can use towards such and such." If you just pop a post up on your social media and ask your friends to make a note of their favorite foundation in the comments or their favorite brand or whatever. And then I'm going to also basically incentivize your friends by also giving them tokens to come and shop with. This whole thing is quite fascinating, but it makes a lot of sense. It's
I mean,
creating a community, it's rewarding most loyal customers, and it's obviously turning your most loyal customers into advocates for your brand.
exactly. And that I think that's the real capability of it. Conceptually, it's sometimes challenging, right? I mean, but you think back to 2000, the idea that we could in 2 days purchase almost anything in the world and have it on our doorstep was
Right.
completely foreign. And that's where I think this is kind of the same concept is this will change how we shop. This will change how we interact with brands. And right now we're in the early adoption stage. And so it's a unique opportunity for any Shopify owner and any business owner to really kind of lead from the front and do it in a manner that can put them one with often free press because these stories are so unique right now. But two is the ability to really start to craft and shape what that future looks like through their brand strategy and through how they want to communicate with their customers.
Well, I think this is a great place to kind of switch gears and share with our audience, Ryan, how they can connect with you because this is something that you're very passionate about. This is something that you've been helping Fortune 500s and even startups understand better. So, is it okay with you if I share with our audience how they can connect with you if they'd like to
A-
learn more about Web3?
Absolutely.
Great. I will do that. And then in the meantime, are there any kind of thoughts you'd like to share to wrap up? Really, what I would call is the introduction today to Web3.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of what I said is probably going to feel intimidating to someone who's never heard these terms before, and it might even be easy to dismiss because it's so new. And that's where I just really encourage you, whether it's myself or really anyone in the space, to ask and start to pay a little bit of attention to it. There's so many resources to learn more about this, all across the internet, and even LinkedIn is a primary example. That it's a great way to really start to understand where this is moving and why there was so much hype behind pictures of apes and things like that on the internet. And the cool part now is we're moving that to the digital economy and the true future of the web.
I love that. Now, speaking of pictures of apes, just for fun, I want to share with the audience if anybody happens to be watching. You may have seen it, but I do want to share it just for fun. Here's a look at our flyer for today's podcast, just in case you didn't see it. It does feature a really cool picture of Ryan in his most amazing. Do you call it the metaverse or what do you call it, Ryan?
Yes. So this one's up front from the metaverse. Right now there are 100 different metaverses that are being
Mhm.
built across. And so I don't necessarily recommend companies jump to a specific metaverse as much as being aware that that's starting to become the mainstay of interactions and social media. But yeah, it's part of the metaverse and it's part of digitizing experiences a bit more too.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and all of your insights on Web3. And it's exciting for us to hear that Shopify is so excited and wanting to be a part of this new kind of transition into what will be an over $800 billion industry in the next couple of years. If you're interested in learning more about what Ryan's company, Cryptan Media, does, or you just have more questions for Ryan or you're interested, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. And for those of you listening, I'll go ahead and spell out his name for you. If you're watching on the video version, the link is up on the screen for you. But his LinkedIn name can be searched Ryan Kirkley, Ryan, last name Kirkley, Kirkley. So LinkedIn.com/Ryan Kirkley. His email, simply Ryan at cryptonmedia.com. That's CRYPTAN media.com. And let's talk about your website for just a moment. What will our audience find when they visit your website?
Yeah, so right now the website's basically just an introduction to the various things that can be done in the NFT space. In the next 2 weeks or so, we're really revolutionizing it in terms of putting out a lot more content on education and really how we can be a resource for you. I know we talked about all sorts of things that you can do with this, and I honestly missed some major ones that are very relevant to Shopify owners as well. And so hopefully we'll have a lot more content there for you to be able to check out and learn a lot more about Web3 and NFTs.
Well, as you mentioned, this is new to a lot of people. It's not mainstream yet, so I think we forgive you 100%, because I think there is going to be a learning curve with all businesses, e-commerce businesses, when it comes to how to be a part of this world and these changes. So I think if you are essentially giving the world little bits of information at a time in general, I think that's going to be much easier for people to digest anyway. So we forgive you, but we're excited. I'm excited for you and all of your new ventures. I know you're a very busy guy. So I want to thank you so much for giving us some of your very valuable time and insights today on a world that until today, many of you may not have heard of. So check out Ryan Kirkley on LinkedIn. If you connect with him on LinkedIn, though, I always advise you, please leave him a message. Let him know you heard him on the Engage show. Don't just blindly connect. That's never a great way. But remember, brands and relationships are built through storytelling. So let Ryan know how you came about his profile on LinkedIn. And of course, if you email him, I advise the same thing. Let him know how you heard about him and what he's doing in the world of Web3. Ryan, it was a pleasure to have you on today's show. I want to thank you so much. And of course, I want to ask you, as this continues to develop and as Web3 continues to become mainstream, and as Shopify continues to allow for integrations, can I welcome you back for another course on how to help our Shopify store owners be a part of this?
Absolutely. I love to talk about this stuff. And honestly, I love to talk about specific use cases and how it can really help brands.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to having you back in the future. Until then, best of luck with Cryptan Media, and have a wonderful spring into summer and enjoy that Miami sunshine.
Thank you so much, Marissa.
Pleasure to meet you, Ryan.
Pleasure.
You guys, I was so nervous about this show. I mean, Web3, NFTs, cryptocurrency, like it's all very foreign to me, but I think Ryan was right. We have to understand that it's coming, right? It's going to be a world that we need to be comfortable with and we need to learn about. And if you're in the e-commerce world, especially if you are working under Shopify, we're hearing that Shopify is open and interested in doing things to accept cryptocurrency and be a part of this transition into Web 3.0. So, what that means is all of you store owners underneath it need to also be open and interested and available to the changes and to the information that's coming to us through people like Ryan Kirkley and Cryptan Media. Cool show, you guys. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I feel super I'm excited that I got to host a show on this topic because, as Ryan shared, it's not totally mainstream yet. So just a reminder, if you want the most from the world of digital marketing, e-commerce digital marketing, Shopify, if you're in that ecosystem of Shopify store owners, agencies, this is definitely the podcast to get the most up-to-date information and trends and unique information. So Ryan, I want to thank you again for joining us today. On behalf of myself and the entire team at Engage, I want to remind you one last time to just check out our app. It's www.engage.com. That is our SMS messaging for Shopify stores app. You can find out more about the app at engage.com. And you can also take your phone number for a test drive. Simply put in any US mobile phone device, click the blue box that says text me, and you can try out the app on your own cell phone. And then if you're interested and you think, as we know, it will be beneficial to your e-commerce business or Shopify store, click that blue free trial button and take it for a 30-day test run. On behalf of myself and the entire team at Engage, I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Digital Marketing Intelligence for Shopify, Ask the Experts. I want to thank Ryan Kirkley and Cryptan Media again for joining us and sharing all of his incredible insights. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Digital Marketing Intelligence. Have a great day, everybody.